Hello, my friends. Welcome back. We're having a fantastic day. It is definitely time to break this whole thing down and also look at some other things that are paralleled to this that we can see in other places that are reflecting the same stuff. Visually, sometimes it's easier to just look and side by side these kind of things so we can see where in one situation it may just look like, somebody's overreaching, that they're seeing something that may not be there. You can make something out of anything if you just arrange it the right way. Which if you're not applying that in some way, then you're probably not being consistent in your application. So there needs to be some accounting for that. So that's, of course, a possibility. But if we can see the same thing repeated, and essentially through the same process, and we see it multiple times, reflecting the same thing, then we start to have more of a pattern. And that pattern is not accidental at that point. So, a lot of esoteric symbolism is involved in this as well. And I'm not going to go super deep into all of that. The amount of it's just there's too much information. I'd rather just kind of give you some points and show you some comparisons so you can kind of see this across multiple things and also understand what it is that people have been looking at that they're pointing out. I think a lot of people are not even quite sure what it is people are pointing at and seeing when they're looking at things like this, which I think everybody's familiar with at this point, this Prince Charles painting that is just very red. I think everybody's seen this. We've all seen some memes and thises and that's showing what appear to be demons or something if you mirror that image. So we're going to look at all that stuff, but we're also going to look at some other stuff where we can kind of see the same stuff and point out what it is that people are looking for when they're seeing that. So you can also kind of get an idea visually of what people are pointing out if you're not already familiar with these other subjects. So with that, let us start with a little history lesson that people are not necessarily aware of, because this actually ties into this in a big way. You can look this up for yourself. This information is definitely available on a lot of different websites, videos, even live video of Charles himself actually discussing this and giving some additional history. So if you're not aware, Prince Charles is a descendant of Vlad the Impaler. Vlad the Impaler is the actual person that existed in history that the character of Bram Stoker's Dracula was based on. Vlad the Impaler. So, in the genealogy and the bloodline of Prince Charles, he actually is a descendant of Vlad the Impaler, or Dracula. Romania, Transylvania region, Prince Charles owns properties there, and that are all descending from that family. So, although the stuff on the screen, this is from a CBS article, so I mean, this is pretty mainstream. I mean, it's established. So, he actually is a descendant of Dracula. So, when you know that, this takes on a little bit of a different meaning then. So now you can see some of the outward symbolism and how that actually ties into something that might be a whole greater, grander thing. So, this is basically the item we're first in question. All right, so everybody understands what we're looking at there. Now, we will look at the mirrored as well, and so everybody can see also what it is that people are looking at or pointing out once we mirror the image and look in the middle, the imagery, the character, the symbol that people are pointing out, this is essentially the demonic character that they are pointing at, that they are seeing. So this, if you're not familiar, if this is not part you've never researched, this is known as the Baphomet. So this is not a photo, obviously. This is an artist rendering of what they thought this character would look like. So this androgynous being, goat being, is basically the symbolic character of worship for the Church of Satan and other groups of similar type. So, I think you probably put Dracula into that category. So, symbolically, this is the image based on what people are identifying for the most part when they're claiming there's demons and things in that painting that are intended to stand out and symbolize something else. So, this is essentially what the main thing people are pointing at. So, what we'll look at now is we've got the next one is the mirrored image. Okay, so what they did, they took this image, they just copied, pasted it right next to, and everything that people are discussing for the most part is in between here. So when you mirror it, all of a sudden you start to be able to see some other things. So when you have that, and you can couple it, with things like this. So we're just going to move some stuff around a little bit so that you can see what people are pointing at. So they're seeing the general shape here. So there's horns that are coming out the sides, right? There's an area going up the center that appears to bloom outward here. There's a peak in between, almost inside of a flower, with an egg shape like on top, right? So if you follow along here, you have all of the same outline detail all the way down. You have also, so then you get down into actual facial structure, eyes, nose, mouth. As you can see, so this is essentially the main item that people are pointing out. And so a lot of the, discrepancy is, you can see anything if you want to. And this is, like I said, this is the main object that people are looking at. But what I will also show you, though, that's not the only thing in this. So if we make this larger, you can see, like I said, the main large character that's being pointed out. But if you actually zoom in close and you start at the top or at the bottom and you just work your way down, each area has additional characters, or what you can see, all the way down, at least several, that are actually smaller characters. And if you start getting really deep, there is so much hidden within this space that you could spend quite a bit of time looking at it. So the main one, like I said, we just kind of pointed out with the other. But if you really just zoom in and get close, you can start to identify them starting all the way at the top. And they're similar looking, they're almost masks, or if you would say, demon faces to an extent. And you can start to see eyeballs here, a forehead, what would come down to a mouth shape, or a long tongue sticking out of. And depending on how far you zoom, you can then see other characters or faces within and around those. So as you kind of scroll up and down, you can see here, at the tip of my finger here, an eye, third eye spot in the middle, if you will, kind of a crown on the top, the nose here, large open mouth like a Joker face with a long tongue hanging out. So these are throughout this, depending on what part you're looking at. Eyes, nose, open mouth, head. Like I said, it's like you're looking at masks, but these are up and down the whole center of this, and you can start to find them off into the sides, depending on how far you zoom in or out. So there is a lot more going on here than just that center one. So let's look at it with the other parts removed. Now you can really start to see, so without quite as much red saturation, now you can really start to see even characters within what might be a larger mask. Like I said, if this was one face here with the eyes, now if you look even closer, within that, it appears right here is another being inside of that. Arms stretching up on either side, with the eyes above them almost like they're holding something. There is like a headdress around it, horns here. You get close, there's an eye and an eye, like a Joker face. Said arms, attach the head, midsection down here, legs coming around, and it's like those legs can be wrapped around another Joker face here. You don't know, a lot of reference for a lot of clown faces throughout history are actually representations of Nephilim or demons. So clown characters, there's a lot of history, and that's what it comes from as well. So like I said, if you work your way up and down this, you will see additional characters or beings or faces or masks of what appear to be demonic creatures all the way down. You can see another one here. And you can kind of play with this yourself. I mean, there's plenty of images of this online that you can download, and you want to get one of the higher pixel images so you can get some detail. But just looking at this overall, you can see what is, like I said, the large head and shape. And then there are so many small ones within it, and then within themselves. So this is, for that to be accidental, that is a bizarre level of coincidence there. Too many. So, to me, this stands out as being very obvious. If you just look a little closer. And we know that when we're talking about Satan or the adversary, the primary tool is deception, inversion, upside down, inside out. So, of course, if you take something and mirror it, and there's an artist rendering of something, it's easy to plug these things in together. So, there's definitely a lot more to this, and you can see some of the other areas. This is CERN doing a performance at one of their facility in Switzerland, doing one of the performances. And when you see the character in the background behind it, you can see some more correlations here, and it starts to be a little bit more obvious what we might be dealing with. And when you can see them side by side, it really kind of changes what you see. So now that you can see all the different parallels to it, it stands out more. And when you have stuff like this in plain sight, this is the same character head. And if you've never noticed this, which I had not, it resembles the exact shape. From ears to horns, horn to ear, all the way down to a goatee, you have the same outline. Ear to horn to ear, back around to a goatee, down in the middle. And in the further distance, you can see the whole thing stand out pretty clearly, and it's just up and down. As you know, Satan is the prince of the air and the false light. So electricity. So this false power symbolically. And the symbology is within it. So when you see this, and you've also seen it now in the middle of that painting, this is a little rendering dollar bill. It's hard to see it if you're not paying attention. So somebody has clarified to where you can actually see what appears to be the image hiding inside of this. Okay, so that's just the progression. Well, it's isolated. Now you can kind of see some of these other parallels with this one as well. And you can start to see certain characteristics of this one as well as this one up and down the center of the Prince Charles red painting. They're both there. So this is what you start to see, is that both of these images start to show up. This is what's known as NASA's blue marble. And that's an official image from the NASA website. You can download the exact one. So what I did was I took it, I split it right down the middle. I deleted the right half. So we kept the left half, simply mirrored it to the other side. And this is what we had. So based on those other images we looked at, and I'll pop it back up for a second, right? So this one, and then also that one, that, right? Same thing. And again, we basically did the same thing. We're just mirroring an image to the other side. There's your horns. There's your ear. Horn. Ear. Background. All the way down to the chin. Back up. There's your eyes, nose, and mouth. So again, you have the large, what appears to be the large Baphomet there. But then if you start zooming in, you see another face here. Eyes, nose, it will look like snarling teeth here. Both images, one inside the other. And if you work your way up and down this whole thing, like a spine, you'll start to see the exact same things we did in the Prince Charles photo. There are lots of what appear to be entities or faces all the way down, inside of each other and around. And it does this all the way down into the water. You can see all the symbols present. And you can see it pretty clear there. So, doesn't look like this is an accident if we can keep doing the same thing and getting the same reflected mirror, and it's showing us back the same things, and we can see the things within the things. It's probably not an accident. Also, note the blue marble image from NASA. You can research it for yourself. They have absolutely admitted and acknowledged 100% that this is a Photoshop from start to finish. This was never taken as a photograph. This was a Photoshop creator's imagination of what he thought Earth would look like from there. So You can find that quote from NASA directly. This was never a photo. This is a Photoshop 100% image. So this was a created image from start to finish. So that's why we can do something like this, because an artist did that on purpose. Then we see things like this in plain sight. And zooming in and out on this, you will start to see the same basic shapes as you have here, hiding right within here. And this is the Pope's throne in the Vatican, inside of a giant cathedral hall that is shaped like a serpent's head and has two eyes and looks like scales running down the back of it. And that image can be seen here too. If you zoom in close enough, you will see the same shape of horns, you will see all of the same stuff. So this stuff is here, you can see it. Sometimes you just need to see it side by side before you can start to point it out. So always look closer, my friends. Much love.